cord here. Okay. So Penny is one of the, works up in Bad River, and I have a list, if you can see the screen, some of the different positions she's been in, lots of different things, but I certainly know her most from working with the moms and babies through WIC in her many different capacities there. So she was gracious enough to agree to do a little discussion about how she uses culture for families and how important that is for them, particularly this for moms, babies, and that group that we all work with. So I'm going to hand it off to Penny, and feel free to do more of an introduction.
So, Buju, if you just want, let's see, I think we have 3 participants. You know, you can share your screen so I can see your face if it's okay. If not, that's all right too. I was like seeing who am I talking to? There you go. There's one. Yeah. So you just know, even though we're doing this virtual through a screening, I still always smudge, you know, so I got our smudge going. This is our smudge. I do other groups. I do actually just came from I do jail groups. And so I do the same thing for them that are incarcerated. You know, I light the smudge, and it's really good for them to see this. It's almost like it has to go on their memory. You know, what does the sage smell like? So I do this all the time. So I'm using our sage. I have sweetgrass. So you know, I use medicine bottles, clean medicine bottles, and I always cut up the medicines and I use it in here. They're easy to transport if you go around and do things. I find it easier bringing this than some of the way that our medicines are made. And this one is our cedar. I have I like dried cedar because dried cedar burns better when you're using it for smudging. So people, this is our smudge. Our tobacco. I'm just going to say a short greetings with my tobacco to get me moving here. So Buju, Nindajinaka Jawanavaneshi Kwai Magisi Dorem, Muskazibi and Dojaba, Kai Musquavikan, Niso Made Kwai, Made Wanakwe and Dow, Nini Mama, 8 Abanuji Wugs. Migwich Kichimanido, Gin Meno by Madaziwen, Shawena Mishana Kishimanido, Minawa, Windamawashin, Wido Kawashin, Gin Meno by Madaziwen. So that's a little prayer that I asked the Creator to bless us and to tell us how to walk in a good way today. And I also included that I have 8 children. I asked the Creator for a blessing for them. So Buju, everybody, my name is Penny. I'm reading my title here. Right now at the moment, I'm the cultural liaison for the AODA program here. I worked in the Healthy Start program for, I think, 5 years. So I went through all the training. I worked with Glitzy and the other 5 tribes. Some of the ones coming on probably remembers me from the Healthy Start part of the program. When that grant ended, the clinic asked me what my plans were, and I had responded and said, if you think I'm a valuable employee, you will find a placement for me here. So they slid me under the AODA program in a totally different field that I ever thought that I would be at. So in my past, I'm a trained doula. I went through the doula training, DONA training twice. So I'm a prenatal doula and also a postpartum doula. A couple years ago, I wanted to further myself because there was pieces missing for myself on how I was working with families, working with women. So then I attended the training for Indigenous Midwifery. I've also gone through the Indigenous Breastfeeding training and
I got it.
I think it's the National Lactation Counselor training. I went through that also. So today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about culture and families. So what I don't do and what I do, I can share things with you and a little bit about the culture. When I work with families, I think in our communities, we should, if you're out there busy and you're visible working in the community, you know how families live and what do they respond to. So I know with the prenatal families I work with, oh no, my screen is switching up here. Sherry, are you switching the screen?
Yeah, I just thought it would be.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I just thought it'd be nicer if people could see a bigger version of you. I don't know. It works on my end, so I'm sorry.
Because I'm not really good on technology. I thought maybe I was gonna the meeting's ended, then I'm gonna have to try to get back in there. So with the families, it depends upon how open they are to culture. If they're open to culture, I always bring my smudging bundle along, meaning, and prenatal women more. As we know, when you're expecting, smells can really escalate your feelings and emotion. If they're up to it, I will smudge with sage. If they're up to it, I will add the cedar sweetgrass. And this is with prenatal families. And most of them here that I have worked with are real open to receive that blessing. But also when you do that, you have to be able to talk about with the families, why do we do this? What is the smudging for? What is its purpose? Because the more they know, the more better they're able to receive it. We can go to a lot of our community events and they have smudging, and we will automatically, people just follow suit what everybody's doing, and they know to take the smudge and smudge themselves. But if you tell that family, like, the sage is for purification, it's to help cleanse yourself. If you tell them about the cedar, the sweetgrass, it makes more sense to them. And always remember, like, if the woman says, oh, that smells nasty, put it away. And don't be offended by that. Because we know a lot of people don't like the smell of sage. And so if you use other medicines on there, it tones down the sage smell. And cedar is really good at that. Adding more cedar to your sage will bring out a cedar smell. So all those medicines are for the smudging your physical, your outside. We all have this. You're smudging and you're cleaning that. And this medicine was given to Anishinaabe that will help take that off. And sometimes where I need to go is not on the physical, and I'm always real cautious. I'm not about the physical. I try to get in there to where is that spirit? Each one of us has a spirit. Where's that spirit inside of there where I can get in there and smudge that spirit? So there's a lot of things that I am thinking about when I take this. So that's a little bit about smudging. And I've never heard that medicines will hurt a woman that's expecting, because that was asked to me here about a month ago. Somebody said they read that sage will hurt a prenatal woman. I have never heard that. And I don't think that's true, that by a woman smelling this will make her, will hurt the fetus. You're not hurting the baby. It might, if a woman don't like the smell, it's going to make her maybe physically sick, to where, because when you're pregnant, everything is real sensitive. They might feel like they want to vomit, and that's okay, because that means that there's something in their body that isn't sitting right. That's usually how I take it. Maybe they have some bad toxic acidity in their stomach, this might make it more sensitive to where they feel like they're going to throw up. So it's not about the medicine, it's about like all of the physical, what are they ingesting? And we know that with prenatals, we eat a lot of different foods, and we know that a lot of foods don't sit right with us. A lot of smells. So that's part of education. So I'm going to move around fast from a beginning stage of a first week of pregnancy to the birth time. I'm going to move around all the time when I'm going to talk about right now. So we know that in the first few weeks of prenatal, some women are very sensitive to smells. And when they tell me about that, I always will take them back to like, do you think that was your first sign of pregnancy? Is like that smell of a fried egg or the smell of fried butter makes you nauseated. Somebody said like Downy dryer sheets, they had a whiff of that and they wanted to throw up. And so I took them back to the time of conception. I was like, that is the time of your conception. If you could remember kind of when that started happening, you can start calculating when you conceive that baby. Some women know when they had sexual intercourse when they conceived, and some don't. So I can help them align to a earlier time of pregnancy, and that's something to think about when you're working with women. Help them go back, because then we think about then I'm cautious on trauma. So there's all kinds of stuff that I had to learn about through a prenatal education. So that's one of the signs is early pregnancy is the smells. Another sign that I always tell prenatals, and I will ask them, did your boobs hurt right away? And most will say, yeah, they were really sensitive. And so then I can go back then like, that's your early weeks of pregnancy, because that's an automatic thing that happens to all women when they're pregnant is their boobs are kind of sensitive. I call them boobs. You guys can call them breast. Today it's boob. Sorry. Yeah, but most boobs are very sensitive to the touch. Even a woman herself can go like this and think, what the heck? That hurts? That's your early sign of pregnancy. So those are cues that our body is telling us that there's something moving and there's something changing inside of that body, but we don't know it yet. And some women are in denial. Through the first month or two, they're waiting for their time. And I call it time or your moon. And you might call it, and I can't even say the medical word, menstruation. I could never spit that word out. So, there's words that I choose to change to fit the need, to fit the words of our native women. Moon time, boobs, doo-doo. Some women will refer their breast as doo-doosh because that's what they're called. So that takes me back to there. So when I went through my Indigenous training, my teacher was Doreen Day, and she's an excellent teacher. She teaches women about Indigenous midwifery, and she can tell you all these beautiful stories about the spirituality part of our creation story. And those parts, I knew a lot of that already, but it was just how am I going to apply all those teachings to with the women I'm working at. And again, being respectful. I might tell you things, and if a family is very Catholic, we don't want to don't ever step those boundaries, and try not to confuse them. Meet that family where they're at. So it's important to know what is their lifestyle, what is their religion preference, what is their spirituality. All those things play a big key in working with prenatal women. So even though we hear about the boundaries, you yourself have to have these boundaries too, and be respectful of it. So we came up with a template. It's called, if you can see it, Indigenous Prenatal Care Model. Indigenous Birth Teachings Collective. So in this class, one of the things we had to do was, this is the Indigenous birth story. we had to try to revisit our creation story of conception. I'm going to speed through this without full extent teachings of each one. So according to our Anishinaabe teachings is that we all come from a place of the spirit. And there's a place, there's this buffer zone somewhere by the spirit, and I'm assuming it's by the creator and all these other spirits is where our spirits reside. And there comes a time, so you know, like all of our spirit could be a century old before we choose who our parents are going to be. And that's something that was told and prophesied, that we choose regardless of who our mom and dad is. Our spirit chooses when it's time to descend down on this earth. Our spirit chooses who is going to be our mother. I always thought that was beautiful because I love my mom so much. I thought I got to be a part of choosing who my mom was. And in these stories, when I tell you things, you'll be able to reflect on your own relationship of who you are and who is your mom and dad and who is your family, because everything is intertwined together and keeps us all connected. So part of our story again is that there's a point when it's time that we want to come down to this earth realm, and so we choose our parents. And so like those 9 months that when a woman is carrying, there's a lot of things to do to make sure that woman is in a right set of mind. I talked earlier about denial. Some women will go through from time from conception to almost like 5 months where a woman is still in denial of a pregnancy. So what can you do to help her through that? And that's through that support and encouraging her with kind words about the development of her baby, because each month, each week, each day, week, month, we develop within a system of our own beautiful self. And all of us share that in common. Our mothers all carried us for 9 months, and she did what she could to develop each one of us in her own way. Some women don't have that, and we know that. Some families don't have that, and that's because of the trauma, maybe the dysfunction that's happening within their surrounding, within their home life. And how can we support that? And it's about us being workers with those prenatals, is learning how to be kind, learning how to talk to that woman in a good way, finding things about her that is beautiful and honoring, and telling her that, because she needs to hear that. She needs to be told that, geez, you're so beautiful today. You know, I heard you went and did this. That's really awesome. So always encourage her with those good words, affirmations, because everything she hears, she's instilling that in that baby that's growing in her. And that baby is hearing those beautiful affirmations. And medically, we have known and reread that that's what we're supposed to be doing. Fathers, and if fathers are vacant, somebody should be looking at that woman's belly and ask her. I always ask a prenatal, like if she's real big, whatever stage, can I touch your belly? And so it's either a yes or no. And most time they're yes, or sometimes it's like, why? It's like, because I love that feeling, and real gentle. So it's about if you have been traumatized in your own physical life, there's points when you too need to release that trauma, because our hands are a gift. Our hands are a gift, and our mouth is a gift through our voice, and how we perceive to talk to a prenatal will put that in there. So with prenatal women, that's why I always ask, can I touch your belly? And when I touch her belly, I'm just in awe, but I'm explaining to her, oh my goodness, your belly is just soft. Oh my goodness, I can feel your baby over here, or you can feel the baby on this side. And that you can't feel a baby until the woman is at least 7 months. At 5 months, that your belly is just starting to protrude just a wee bit. People will say, oh, I can see your baby bump. That looks really pretty, but still say that to her. Some women will automatically put on weight, and it's either up here or their hips or butt. And you still, in a not sarcastic way, but tell her it's okay, because a woman will get self-conscious right away that oh my God, my hips are getting big, or my ass is got so big. And that's how they'll talk about themselves. But you want to respond in a good, some good feedback about that. And the best feedback is, but you got life growing in you. That's what's supposed to happen. So always remember, tell her that is what's supposed to happen. You have life growing in you, and reassure her. And so she'll think about that. Oh, I got life growing in me. Yeah, I never thought about that. I just thought I was getting fat. Women don't like to get fat. Women don't like to be told you're getting big. You can say you're getting big, but you got to say it in a way where they're not being offended. Because I do that. When a woman is really big, I will say, oh my goodness, you're big. And I mean that in a good way. And I offend women by that, because I'm not saying like this part is really big. What I see is right here, like that baby is getting big, so I have the hard way. I had to watch what I say and how I say that, not meaning to be rude to somebody. Some of the visions, let's see. Some of the things we talked about in our Indigenous midwifery is we took the 7 teachings, and the 7 teachings are like a universal, it's a universal 7 teachings, those 7 grandfather teachings. And so even in your own program or where you're at, you can take those 7 teachings and pull them apart and rewrite it to fit your needs. That could even be with the WIC. The WIC program could take those 7 teachings, pull it apart, and put your own words of encouragement or wisdom into each of those words. So this is a like something that we did. We took those 7 teachings for supporting a healthy birth. Number 1 is love. I will ask the Creator and acknowledge the spirit and safe travels for the journey here to Nimama Aki. So that's how we took the word love. Respect. I will respect the body of the mother as a sacred vessel. In respecting her birth, I will support and honor her wishes and plan for a healthy birth and respectful environment. Now that's a big key about respect, because we all have as moms, aunties, grandmas, friends, whatever, we all have our own expectations, what we could tell somebody what to do through their pregnancy, but we have to respect that woman that we're working with, the woman that we're talking to. And we're not told that enough, that because we weren't taught that we're all sacred. We're not talked about and told that the body of where we're all carried and where we carry our children. This part here is very sacred because we carry life for 9 months. The place of where our babies come through, we, instead of vagina, we use birthing canal. So we took out vagina because that's like really scientific, and it could be women that have been traumatized through rape or through like things that shouldn't have happened down there. That can be a trauma word. So we had to change that to make it more beautiful. And so we use birthing canal. So remember that, like, your baby is going to come out of that beautiful place of your birthing canal. Everything will open up in your body, and your baby will know what to do. Our mind through birth, if we've all had babies, our mind and something else can say, I don't want that to happen. But guess what? Our body, we don't tell our body, hey, it's time to open up. Our body naturally starts doing all that work for us. That baby automatically knows it's time to come down and go into that birthing canal to be pushed out. So there are times when if you've had a baby, you have no control over your body. Your body has control over your mind. And so through doula training, you learn how to work with women, like their thoughts and their emotions, because it's so escalating. It's such an escalating time point of pain that you lose control. But through doula, and even if you're just that type of person, you learn how to talk to a woman to control her and pull her back down to center herself to the moment of what's going on. Kindness and generosity. I will always remain kind and generous to myself and families during this journey of birth. Honesty. I will uphold the integrity and truth of the family, being an ally, advocate in their birth. If you're working with prenatals, you can Google birth plans. And even if, if you're going to be a first-time grandma, you can still Google birth plans, and all these different things are going to pop up, and you can read through them because we all have a right, and we didn't know that in the past, that we have a right to our birth plan. And it will ask you questions. Who do I want in my birth? And this is just like it's a personal journal that you can write on with all these questions, and you can take that with you. The woman in labor can take that with her, or if you're the support person, you can have that, and you can present that at the OB ward, wherever you're going to go for your birth. You can present that birth plan and let them see this is what this woman wants. And if it would be good if you could get up there beforehand, because if she's expecting in 2 weeks, you should be like going up, and you have a right to go to the OB ward and take a tour. All those first-time moms, second-times mom, that's our right to go up there and tour the place where we're going to give birth, and see who, like it's going to be the nurses, like who's going to be working with me when I have my baby, who's going to be working with me when I have my labor and delivery. So that's something that we did not know, but that's available. And as part of that birth plan, you just have a right, all these expecting moms have a right to know that. Some of us older timers, you just went in there cold turkey. You just went in there when you were in labor because the doctor told you when you're in labor, call the hospital and go up there. Or we weren't even told, call the hospital. You just showed up at the hospital and said, I'm going to have a baby, and then they shuttle you down to the OB ward. Times have changed. Part of this movement with this doula and Indigenous midwifery is we're trying to take back something that was ours as women giving birth, as women in labor. We're trying to take that back, and we're trying to be a part of all this beautiful stuff that should be happening. Our mothers and grandmothers can tell you probably like how awful it was in the past. Our mothers can tell us, and our grandmothers can tell us, like, nobody was allowed in the hospital when I had a baby. They made me go by myself, so we're trying to change all that and reclaim something that should have been in place, and it's a work in progress. Let's see. Humility. I will be humble in my workforce. No, I will be humble in my work, free of personal bias, respecting each unique family birth. Courage. I will have the courage and conviction to speak up on behalf of the spirit coming into this realm and hold the space and support for the best of the baby and the family. Wisdom. I will reclaim, use, and share our ancient birthing wisdom. I will honor these teachings by honoring all families in birth. So that's how we took apart our 7 teachings, and this is for our midwifery class. So since COVID, it's been a year. March was a full year where I have not attended a birth. And I'm so anxious to and excited to go back in and help deliver babies. So that's what I do. I help deliver the babies. And I work through the Ashland Birthing Center. If you've never heard of it, you can Google the Ashland Birthing Center. And there's 2 certified midwives that work there, Dana Turnus and Savita Jones. And we're really fortunate. We have a young woman from here, Hope Mayotte. Hope Mayotte is going to school for midwifery, and so she's a part of that team also. So those 3 main women have been still doing that work for the birthing center. But when COVID happened, I backed up for the safety of all the people that go there. I've had my 2nd vaccination, and I've never had COVID. And so even the midwives, they took that chance and they got their COVID vaccination. And so now just recently I got a message like, can you come up here next week? And I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm so excited. And I didn't want to overstep those boundaries. And that was my respect for them, that I knew this COVID was here. And I didn't, not only me, but I didn't want to worry the families that were giving birth. So at a birthing house, um, if you go, you could drive around it and find it if you even want, but it's a bigger building and they have it all set up to like laboring rooms, birthing rooms in there. And you go there when you're in full labor or whenever you get there, and you stay there that whole time and you give birth right in this house. Um, and they're only so many minutes, miles from the hospital. So they know that in case there's an emergency, there's an easy transport to get this prenatal mom into the hospital, because sometimes things happen. We all imagine we're going to have this natural birth. Sometimes something happens and baby doesn't turn around, and those midwives are so awesome on their hands and how they listen to the heartbeat. They know when that baby hasn't turned around, and so even they'll make that call like, I think you need to go to the hospital because baby's just not turning. And sometimes they have these miracle hands where they know how to turn these babies around, but then in there there's always this complication is the cord wrapped around the neck. So is there any questions? I'm moving around really fast. And there's a lot to talk about, but I'm moving fast. I don't want to confuse anybody. So part of,
Penny,
go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. You mentioned the in your prenatal care model that there were a bunch of different stories. Are those something that we could get access to, or is it something we could buy the model? Or I'm just curious because of course I'm thinking, how can we incorporate more of these things? So yeah, just wondering if.
Yeah, I would have to get a hold of the group. I don't know who's got the publishing rights to that. So I'll get a hold of the group and ask them. It probably is public, but they would have to send me a link and I would have to send it to you to get to distribute. But I will ask, or I'll ask Doreen Day if she has anything. And Doreen Day you could even Google Doreen Day, and you might be able to find some of her work through Google that she presents out that's free. So Doreen goes all over the world and she teaches people on Indigenous midwifery. Before COVID, she was up in Canada, Saskatchewan. She was way up there even working with women. So this is something that like a lot of women hear about, doula and midwifery. There's an interest in them. And so they pursue that. So, my story is before I did this, I think in like 2011, I started doing this work. But before that, I go to the funeral homes. And when people pass away, if they request it, I'm one of them that has been trained to go to the funeral home, and I take care of people. We wash their body and we put their clothes on them and we get them ready for their coffin. And I had did that a number of years. And one night we were up there, and of all things, there was this elder man from Bad River here, and we were busy taking care of him and doing stuff. And I turned around and I was looking at my friends and I said, hey, did you ever think there's more to life than coming here and doing this kind of work? And someone said, shh, don't talk like that in here. And I was like, well, it's true. And I looked at this man and this old grandpa, and I said, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I'm not being disrespectful, but there has to be more to life than this part that I come here to do this work. So, about a week later, my friends told me to zip it, focus on what you're doing. So I did. I was like giggling at them. About a week later, I seen this advertisement for doula. I was like, doula? Doula? What the hell is a doula? So I read that thing flyer that was up, and I was like, hey, I think I think I'm going to try that. So I got a hold of all my friends and I told them, hey, ladies, there's this doula training and it's about learning how to work with prenatal women. It's about life. And everybody had their job careers and they were all set. And so they all kind of laughed at me and they said, well, you can do it. And I said, I'll sacrifice myself on behalf of all of us. I'll go to doula training. So I went and I was like, oh, that old grandpa man answered my prayers. He he answered my prayers. And so I went through that training and it's about life, bringing life here. So that's why when I went through that doula training, I furthered myself on to the Indigenous midwifery because it's about how can I help bring life here in a good way? You know, if I've already, and I went through my hospice training too. I'm already doing that spectrum on helping a person leave this world. I was out of balance in my own filtering that now I can help bring life here and now I can help bring life out. So in this training with the midwifery, it's about the sacredness of life. And so we do even through labor and delivery at the birthing center. I do the ceremony part. I will, and it's even for non-native women. If I think that they're open to this way of life, I will bring a smudge in there and I will talk to her through while she's going through her labor and contractions, and I'll talk to her about, can I smudge you? Can I talk to you? Can I sing to you? And they all open that up, and that's always yes. So I do that when a woman is in labor. I will smudge because her body is sacred. Her body is sacred, and it's going through something painful. And not some women have been lucky, like they don't get hard pain. Some women it hurts, and some women will say, well, that wasn't so bad, but I smudge her full body, smudge it and get it ready because it's so sacred, because life is coming. This woman that's in labor right now is bringing life forward. Her body is bringing life, and we don't think about it that sacred or that intent. We just think, oh, she's going to having a baby. There's more to it. There's more to it, and the more we can put to activate all that, it becomes more special. And I shouldn't say that word because every birth is special regardless of where they're at, but it's how do we support them to make it special? How do we support them to make it beautiful instead of this old time theory that what do you hear? What did you hear when you were going to have a baby or push that baby out? An older woman will tell you, it feels like you're taking a poop. It feels like you, and that's how it was described to me. And I thought, what does that mean? I'm going to take a poop? Well, you don't know until you're pushing that baby out, like, oh, because our muscles, these muscles here kick in. We have muscles in our body that we don't even think about, that they have to be activated, and they will work. So and if you know I had a baby, you hold your breath and you push. And what you're doing is we have to teach. So you're not just pushing, you're pushing, and you're starting from here, right in the middle of this diagram. We have a way of control that when we're pushing, we can do this. We can start from here and we can push with our breath. We're pushing that baby down. So when you hear about pushing and breathing, there's other things to it that we don't really think about. We just follow suit, or we just do. Someone says push and they're like, I don't even know how to push. You have to explain that. Pushing is like this. So I'm moving all over the place. Sorry. And then our sacred fire. So, here, so I don't know if Hope is here, but we've had in Bad River, we've had women have, Hope Maya delivered her babies right in her house. She got used to the fact and started going through all these training. Like that's all right. And that's a normal thing. If you're ready, if you have the proper medical care, you can have your baby in your house, but you have to have everything set. Like who's your midwife or who's your doctor? Are you under doctor's care? Does this doctor agree to it? So there's other formalities, but this woman had her baby in her house, and I got to go catch that baby. She only lived a few blocks from here, not even a block. So I got to drive over there and catch her baby. From there, she had another one like a year or two later. And by then we were learned about birthing houses. So a birthing house is built by the men, like a father and the grandpas and whatever men can go get the physical structure. They get all that and they get it. They build it. It looks like a big, huge, but it's huger. It's like a big sweat lodge. It's huge. It's so huge that you can walk in there. It's all covered. Same with canvas, like a sweat lodge. It's big enough where a bed can be in there. You can bring your lamps. And so, everything is set up and it's all sterilized. So so out here and in Red Cliff, there's like 2 years ago for sure, we've had women delivering right at home in their house or in their birthing lodge. And with that, we received those teachings of a birthing fire. Some communities will say, the women that are in their 60s, 70s, they will say, I've never heard of that. Well, maybe it's something happened in our time before that. And it's part of that assimilation and historical trauma that maybe at one point they did have a sacred fire. Because where did it's very common to go through a community. And if you see a fire by our house, somebody passed away. We know that already. That's like common all over on our 5 tribes, that they have a fire when somebody passes away or wherever they're going to have a wake, you will see their fire. When I told you about that balance, so what happens to when a baby, if we're so sacred, so we got introduced to a sacred fire. So when a woman is in active labor and it's not going to stop, we go through these stages of labor. I know when a woman, like if she's at 6-7 centimeters, that is active labor. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. If we have the father build a fire, a sacred, and it's sacred again. It's a sacred fire. So those ones that are there, and even we have our laboring moms come out there and pray with her tobacco. And so your prayer at that time is that everything is good. We're welcoming this baby because that baby is getting ready to make its appearance here on this creation. And so everybody prays for a safe birth, a safe journey, and we offer our tobacco. And then the moms that have participated, they go out and they pray for themselves. Even through those contractions, they have made their ways out there, walked barefoot or with their shoes on, and they offered their tobacco to the fire for their baby that's coming and the dads. And so it really takes it to another level of relationship. And so now the communities are kind of getting comfortable. We're still introducing it. We still have that backwash, but they're getting comfortable hearing like, oh, they're having a baby. They got their fire going. They know that household is getting ready with that baby. That baby is coming. They know it's not like somebody died, they got a fire. And that's that balance. So I'm really honored to these young babies that have and these families that have lit a birth fire, because that baby with that birth fire is going to have a differently complete circle of life. When we leave, we all just might have a fire when we pass away. I'm sure somebody's going to say, should I light a fire for her? Well, for me, I'm only going to have one fire in my whole lifetime. I didn't have a birth fire. And so I think there's that balance of everything needs balance. And so that's a little bit about our birth fires. And you burn tobacco and cedar, and it's also open to the community or family when those birth fires are going. People are welcome to come and pray for that woman that's over there going to have a baby. Pray for that baby that's coming. And they tell us when we, and that's for all of us, when we came here, what is the first thing that when we're born, some of us probably got the spank on the butt. They don't do that anymore. They don't get a spanking like we got. We had no choice. But they did that for a reason. It was to help us gasp in that air. So now we do it more natural. And I don't think they even do it at the hospital anymore, that they spank the butt unless they have to. But that's actually what it does, is it makes like those muscles. And so they say, like in our teachings, when we arrive here and we all go, we take that breath of air. Just think though, for 9 months we were in our mother's womb and we had things differently in there. So when we're out here, we're kind of like coming into this world and we take our first breath. And they say, because we have really strong legends and teachings of creation, that when we take our first breath, like if you could, I look outside because right on the side of me is my big window. So I look outside when I talk. Sorry, that's my distraction. When we take our first breath and we do like this, we're sucking in all that creation, and creation meaning like the wind, the trees, the earth, all four of the directions. They feel that little energy coming from them, and they say, oh, he or she's arrived. They've made their journey here on earth. So like I talked about earlier, like we choose how long before we ever get here, we choose. So creation knows when we have arrived, even before like the physical family does. Mom and dad know you've arrived. People right there will hear you, because we cry right away too. It's an automatic mechanism that babies cry. And I don't know why we cry. Maybe we're so like startled, because coming down that birth canal can be a horrific experience, because we gotta our head and our shoulders, we know how to slide out just like an otter. And that's how our bodies are so limber, that we know just in this little opening is what I gotta make it through. For all of us, we all know, and our bodies know how to, our shoulders will go like this. If a baby, before it gets to that birth canal, if a baby goes like this, that baby pops mom's vagina. That's where we get torn. We get torn if you've heard about someone said, yeah, when I had a baby, I was torn and I had to get a stitch. That's because sometimes we're a little bit too big, or we're just not moving in the right direction, how to get out there. So we make it out here. And then the creations say that, like, he or she has arrived. When I talk about those two fires, when we take our first breath, creation will say that. When we take our last breath and we expel that out, creation, again, there's two times when creation will really, they know our presence. When we take our last breath, and that's if we've ever lost somebody, we send that breath out, and creation will pause again, like really a multi-second. Creation pauses and will say, he or she is gone. She or she left us. So any questions? I'm just going. Sorry, guys. Yeah, that took us to 11:52. Who's up there smiling?
Do you want to open up to questions? Does anyone want to? I know you have a comment that says, hi, Penny. So that was from
Is
Barb.
that from Barb?
Yeah.
Hey, Barb. Yeah. Oh, I don't even have my chat open. Sorry. I think I get on there on my view.
I know you mentioned that you were very cautious of religious beliefs, and I guess I haven't really paid much attention to that in the counseling that I do. Do you have any
There she is.
guides on that? Like, what are you asking about, or what are you cautious about, I guess, as far as religion?
And it's about being respectful. And because I'm cultural, I have to, being respectful and cautious means if a family is known to be very Christian, very Catholic, they might not believe this in this way, or they might say that's that bad medicine That's that Indian stuff. So that's where I'm kind of like, and you know when you're working with families, like what is the family dynamics of religion? Religion and culture does not, and this is just me, and I'm sure Barb does this, it's an automatic thing. It's automatically for me to respond like with the whole package deal, spiritually, religiously. I just don't go in there, and I could just go in there and just teach by the book and be very stern and solemn, but that's not how I am. And so every one of us is so different. So how we talk to families is how you know that family, because you might not offend that mom at the time, but if she goes home and she tells mom and auntie, oh, they were smudging, you might get scorned on, or you might be talked about. And that's what I don't want. Is I don't want anything that we do, because you're eventually going to hear it like, oh, that, oh, Auntie Erin over there said that you guys are smudging, so word travels fast in Indian communities of what we say, what we do. It's just how it is. We're not binded by HIPAA laws. There's no HIPAA. And that's the other thing is practicing that HIPAA. I can do a lot of work, and we all know that. Look, we all go out and work with the families. That's a HIPAA violation if we go out and start, like gossiping about it. That's a no-no, because then you lose that trust, and then you have to fix those things, and we all have that option. Like if we have offended somebody, either you can just like leave it like that, or are you the type of person that needs to think like, how can I go fix what I just did? If I go in for that next visit, how can I fix that? Meaning like, if I take a smudge in there 1 week, and when I see them in 3 weeks, if I kind of got this feeling like they didn't care for that, how can I make amends with that? How can I make amends and apologize? Like, I'm sorry, I won't bring that in. I didn't know, that's, you'll find your words how to work with families.
Other questions or comments anyone want to share?
Great presentation, Penny. Loved it.
Oh, thank you, Barb.
It's great to see your face.
Yeah, Barb probably does very similar things of what I do.
Yep.
I know she's been trained doula, breastfeeding and all that. So
I'd love to read those books that you have there.
yeah,
From
yeah.
Doreen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this probably probably every community that she's gone to probably have their own dynamic. They all make their own. But it's something to think about, like how can I incorporate like those 7 principles in my job working?
Yeah.
And you can format with your own thoughts, write it down. Like, what does that mean to you? I didn't know that we could take those 7 grandfather teachings and move them. Now that I even made one up for COVID with the 7 grandfather teaching and change it to all the COVID regulations. I was like, dang, we could do this all the time. Grandfather's teachings and fit the needs of what are we needing? What do we need?
Yep.
Yeah.
That has my mind spinning about how can we make some breastfeeding education with the 7 teachings. So
Yes. Yeah.
definitely.
I started working on some, and it's not even my job to do that anymore, but I like doing it. So I was trying to come up, for the Head Start asked me some questions, and I was trying to give them some examples for the 7 grandfather teachings for the Head Start program. Yeah. So yes. If you don't know what the 7 grandfather teachings are, again, Google is a great resource. You can Google it and the 7 teachings will come up. And then you'll have all different styles of it.
Any other questions or comments or other experiences you wanted to share?
Hi, Penny, it's Sean.
Hey,
It's been a
Sean.
while. Hi, it's been a while
Mhm.
since we've seen each other in person, but
Mhm.
it's so good to
Mhm.
hear your talk today. And I'm just so grateful for, those cultural pieces being carried on because, as you know, so many have been lost along the way. And so um, I know a lot of the birth traditions where I'm from in the Turtle Mountains are really far from the young ladies giving birth right now, sadly. So it's really good just to hear, some of those traditions being carried on and living.
And and it has to go back to our historical trauma. Our historical trauma and assimilations. Our mothers probably have they probably experienced birth going in by herself. I know when my mom had to go all the way to Hayward from Bad River, Red Cliff. There was no hospital, so they had to go to Hayward. And when they went to Hayward, they had to go almost, some will say like a whole month. Like when they were 8 months, they had to go check in, and they had to stay there a full month until they went into labor. And not very many people could even go down there and visit them because you were Indian, So it's about changing the rules of the non-native people also, and it's happening. The world is changing.
Wow, I didn't realize that was happening here in Wisconsin too, because I had read about those like pregnancy removals, up in Canada. When I was in school a couple years ago, I was reading a lot of just a lot of research articles. There's not much, just on like historical trauma and how it's impacted breastfeeding and birth. And I remember reading a lot about those, and it was so sad about because it was just so against the cultural norm when you want to be surrounded by your family and the women, and how much it impacted the women that experienced that, because they were totally removed. And then if they did breastfeed, you didn't have younger ones around that were watching that happen, so then you lose that like piece where you see your aunties breastfeeding, or your your cousins, or whoever in your family.
Yeah, we didn't even get a chance to get into afterwards about promoting breastfeeding, so I know you have your work to do on still promoting that and making it a normal thing to breastfeed, because and that's coming from I'm 61, so my mom 62 years ago didn't breastfeed because that was already gone. I was fed canned milk. And that's what women gave over at Red Cliff. That's what they gave their babies, was carnation evaporated canned milk, and it was diluted just half and half. So I got half milk and half water. That's what I was. That was my first drink, was that canned milk.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you can think about your own, what was your first drink, and what happened to my mom? So all of us can go back and think, what happened to my mom when she was going through labor and stuff? When did all that happen? Because my grandmother breastfed all of her babies, but by the time my mom started having children, something happened and something changed at that point where our ma's quit. Oh, let's see, my oldest brother must be 66. No, 67. So 68 years ago, something happened. Something happened around that time in the whatever year he was born. Something was already moving and changing for us. 61 years ago, if a woman had a baby and it was stillborn, she wasn't allowed to see her baby. She wasn't allowed to look at that baby or hold that baby. And I think, oh my God, just think how awful. What an awful thing that our mothers didn't get to hold their baby that was passed away, let alone see the baby. Can you imagine having a baby that's passed away, and then you got to grieve, and you're told not to grieve like nothing happened? That's what the hospitals were trying to make our women do. And I thought, no wonder why they were having mental breakdowns, or they found alcohol, so a lot of drama was happening. Yeah. Lots of stories.
Well, I just wanted to say again, thank you so much, Penny. Your perspective is something we don't find a lot, so I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us, and maybe we'll have you back.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
interested to do again or do something again. I know we have Barb on the schedule
Yeah.
in the next couple months too, so
Okay.
definitely. But thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's so appreciated. And I just want to make a little plug for next month. We have some already scheduled for next month. So a little bit of a different spin.
Oh, okay.
If you can see those on the screen, we've got
Yep.
one about continuing your breastfeeding journey. So, sometimes
Mhm.
people think 6 months, then what? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then really exciting is the end of the month on April 27th. I've cajoled and begged and convinced a few of our what I like to call champions in the tribal communities to just do a little Q&A for us and for any of the participants you have with your other programs. I have a list of questions to ask them initially,
Hey, Liz, I'm on a Zoom call. I can't talk.
and then we'll open it up for participants to ask questions as well. So really excited to do that next month too. So we'll be sending out more information. So just want to give everyone a heads up about those. But again, thank you, Penny, and thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you hopefully next time.
All right. Thank you for asking me. See you later, Barbara. It was good to see you. Sherry.